Hello and welcome to the bonsai garden. I've got here my Greenwood Azalea bonsai tree that I bought from Greenwood in May 2021, and I've decided that I'm going to repot this year into a new pot and refresh the Kanuma soil that's in there. The window of opportunity for repotting your azalea is either very early in spring or shortly after they've flowered. So I'm keen to get this into a pot as soon as possible. And so, as you'll see from the introduction, I ordered a pot for this, and it was a Zisha red Chinese river clay pot from Etsy, and it had beautiful lion motifs around it, and it was about the right size for this, that it was absolutely ideal. Now, unfortunately, about 2 weeks ago, we also had quite a violent storm, and it caused quite a bit of wreckage in the garden. The storm was due to occur overnight, so we had strong winds, and when I came to check the garden in the morning, everything was fine. Some of the furniture had been moved about a little bit, and a couple of the smaller pots had blown over on my bonsai benches, but by and large everything was fine. So mid-morning I popped out to do a little bit of grocery shopping, and when I came back there was absolute chaos in the garden. And pots have blown over. Several pots have been blown off the table here, including this big Chinese red river clay pot, which is quite surprising because it must have weighed 3 or 4 kilos even in weight. So I was surprised that that was blown off the table here. Unfortunately, it was destroyed. Although I did try to put the thing back together and try a little bit of kintsugi, what you will find is that once you introduce glue into the mix, each piece only has to shift a fraction of a millimeter, and when you have such a large piece to put back together and so many pieces, what you might find is that each piece moving a millimeter when you get to the final few pieces means that they no longer fit together. So unfortunately I wasn't able to retrieve that. Where I got the pot from on Etsy usually has several of the same pot, and often sometimes in also different variants of colour. The pots have been made from different types of clay which give that different colour, different appearance. Now unfortunately the pot that I bought was the last of its kind in that batch. There wasn't another one, and so what I had to do was I ordered the nearest similar thing that I could, and that's the parcel that's arrived recently. So I'm now going to unbox that, have a look, and then it's time for a repot for this tree. So this is the parcel that arrived from China, and it only took perhaps about 10 days to get here, which is a little bit ironic because I'm finding at the moment that things which I order which are from just perhaps 20 miles down the road seem to get lost by Royal Mail, and I've got a couple of parcels which I've had that happen with recently, whereas this can travel from the other side of the world in no time. So let's get into this and have a look and see what we've got. Now, it's not an identical match for the one that was damaged, but it was the nearest that I could find. It's slightly more expensive, but I'm hoping that the dimensions are very similar as well. The last pot, the one that got damaged, would have been ideal in terms of size. Okay, here we go. This one looks, on the face of it, as though it's quite a lot deeper. And it's certainly well packaged against damage. So let's get some of the foam out so that we can get to it. And I can see it's of roughly similar dimensions. Perhaps it's a little bit larger than the pot that got damaged, but you can see that it has got, again, the lion face motif on there. Got one on either side, and it's a round bowl pot. So So let's have a look at that outside and see how the tree looks in it. And here we go with the tree just tested in there just for size and fit. There are a number of reasons for repotting your bonsai. One of them is purely cosmetic, for aesthetic purposes, and that's clearly the case here. Other reasons might be for the health of your tree, and also you might need an emergency repot if, for example, your pots have been damaged, as a couple of mine were in the recent high winds. So I'm just preparing the pot now, and I'm creating a tie down for some potting mesh, just to stop the soil dropping out of the bottom of the pot. So I've just created a little butterfly clip on the bottom of the pot. As you see there, so that's the potting mesh secured, and now I just need to put a couple of wires through the bottom to secure the tree. This is one of those pots that has got 3 tie down holes in the bottom, which I always think is a bit of an odd number. But I think I might get away with just the one tie down wire here, because it's quite a deep pot. I don't think the tree's going anywhere once I've positioned it in there. So that's my pot ready. Just move that to the side. And now it's time to get the tree out of the pot and have a look. So just cut the tie down wires there. And here we go, that's the tree out of the pot. Now, a couple of things about azalea. They are basally dominant, which means that most of the growth happens around the base of the tree, and you'll often get suckers growing there as well. So when you're pruning your azalea, you want to prune heavier on the lower part of the tree. Another thing is that, if I understand correctly, the roots tend to be quite shallow, and so often the major root mass will happen quite shallow in the pot, quite high up. Also, the roots are very, very fine and quite feathery. So I'm just loosening up some of this soil. And because I'm repotting this for aesthetic purposes mainly, I don't need to worry about taking off any of this root mass, really. They do like to grow in an ericaceous or slightly acidic soil. And for that purpose, a lot of people will use this Kanuma soil, which is a Japanese river clay, I understand, which is quite acidic, but it has this very distinctive yellow colour. And in order to source that, you might need to contact a local bonsai nursery, or perhaps find it online. It's not something that's readily available, to my knowledge, in garden centres. I recently bought mine from All Things Bonsai. So just removing the previous tie down on it. I'm just working around the roots. Now we are expecting a little bit of a cold snap over the next week, so once I have repotted this, although I'm not doing massive root work on it, I will just need to be careful and make sure that I give it a little bit of protection, particularly on those days when we might be going down to sub-zero temperatures. So you can see here I'm just going around the periphery of the roots and loosening those up. Because this is going into quite a deep pot, I'm not concerned about the depth of the root ball on here. There we go, I think I've loosened that up enough. So I'm just going to add some soil into my pot here. Because it's quite a deep pot, I need to put quite a bit of soil in there. So now I'm going to try treating the pot, and that will need to be a little bit higher than it is in there at the moment, and I'll just fill that now with Chanima soil. And as you can see, it's quite a distinctive colour. Let's just offer up the tree to the pot again. And I think that's probably an okay height there. So I'm just going to use my tie down wires just to secure that in there so it doesn't move about too much. So I'm just pulling and twisting just to tighten the wire. And although this wire is just to secure the tree into the pot, because of the depth, I don't think this tree is really going to move anywhere. I'll just tie that up and tuck that down. Then there is a bit of a void around the outside of the tree because it's an incurve pot. So I'm now just trying to fill that void, and I will be chopsticking that in just to make sure I fill all the gaps. just chopsticking around the edge, just getting that soil to settle down into the gaps between the tree roots and the edge of the pot. And you can see as I chopstick away, the soil is disappearing down into the gaps, and I'll just keep backfilling until all of that is gone. And just repeat that process around the edge of the pot. So as I said earlier, there are two potting windows for azalea. The first of them is, as I'm doing here, very early in spring, and the other is after the tree has flowered at the beginning of summer. So that is the tree settled into the pot. Having repotted my tree, I'm now just going to perform a couple of cosmetic flourishes. The first of those is that I'm going to give the pot a wipe down with camellia oil, and that will just bring out the shine of the pot. So I just work my way around the pot. Just wiping on oil to give that a bit of a sheen. There we go, gives the pot a little bit of a gloss. And the final thing is I'm just going to dress that up a bit with some of the moss that was taken off. So we do have some sub-zero temperatures coming up for a couple of days next week. I'm not overly concerned about this tree because of the depth of the pot, and also the fact that I didn't really perform any serious root work on there. So I'm sure the tree will be okay. Usually get it fairly mild in the garden here. So that's the tree finished. As with any newly transplanted tree, it's always a good idea to give that a good water. Thanks for watching. I hope you found that video useful or interesting. If so, please give the video a like and consider subscribing to be notified of future videos. Thanks again for watching, and hope to see you in the next one.